crazy stories at the airport this week. But this is a Sunday school class, and of course, just want to remind everybody that when I ask you to share, I want you to share. If the Lord lays on your heart the need to do that, okay? So we've been in this particular section about character. We have quite a few characters in this church, do we not? Okay, we do. I don't think that's the kind of character we're going to start talking about right now, though, in this as it applies to the Sunday school lesson. Talking about, yeah, it could be. We're talking about Christian character, okay? And so as I'm going down this list of character, of course, we've covered the first lesson was the importance of having character, and as it relates to being a Christian. And let me just explore that while we're here. We're just doing just a quick review. What is the importance of character? Okay, because everybody that we know, whether it be at work or family members or church, they have a characteristic, do they not? Which is characteristic. It's some kind of a mannerism that they have, the words that they use. I interact with people at a lot of different levels. I'll go to the YMCA every morning. I have a group of friends there at the YMCA, some that have been retired for years and, proclaim one thing. And most of the time their language gives me back what they appear to be. Occasionally something will come out of their mouth, just like out of my mouth. That's not characteristic of something that Jack would normally say. And I would rather that to be the exception and not the norm when I have those instances when something does come out. But character, where is it built at? Where is the character? Where is the foundation of our character? Well, Jesse? Absolutely. Very good. Well said. Yes, your core beliefs, if you truly believe it, it will come out. You will see the evidence of that. You can fake it for a little while, possibly, maybe, mask it. But there's only so many times. If you're with somebody long enough, the true character, as they say, will come out. Okay. So we spoke about the importance of godliness. Okay. Well, this week is about humility. So as I'm going down this list of humility, there's a difference between humble and humility. I've been humbled before, okay? And that takes us to the first thing about the question that I was going to throw at you, or the feedback was, when have you been reminded that pride comes before a fall? When have you been reminded that pride comes before a fall? And it can be something in your own personal life. It can be something that you've seen in sports, on TV, in the world scene. When is a time when you've been reminded that pride comes before a fall? It can also be a biblical type of thing. Because it's biblical. The Bible says that pride cometh before what? Destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall.
Back at verse number 7 with me. Therefore, as you abound in everything, in faith and in utterance and in knowledge and in all diligence and in your love to us, see that you abound in this grace also. So Paul here, when you look at that word abound, it means to be abundant or plentiful. It means to exist in large quantities. It's to exceed an existing number.
Neil, where's that sound?
And so what
from?
we're looking at is when he says abound, he's wanting them to have more. He's wanting them to make sure.
Your character, bro. What's going on? I'm not streaming a Sunday school class, I hope. I got some embarrassing stories I want to tell about people. I don't want it out there streamed, okay? Oh, good. Phew. I'm just Memorex here. Okay, good. So mine came when my wife signed me up for AAA, and not Alcoholics Anonymous or anything like that. It was the automobile thing whenever your car breaks down. Yeah, that thing. So, I got that old truck. This will be its 20th year, on my Toyota. It's been a good one, and but it's a 20-year-old truck, 350-something thousand miles on it. So we got AAA. So I remember coming home one night, and the thing started knocking. I was like, oh my goodness, it's gonna leave me stranded. Well, it got me to Regency Park, and then I was just looking for a place to get off the road because I didn't want to be on 40. And finally, I was able to limp it off and get it up to the side of the road. And so I said, well, let me see if I can find that car, and they weren't expecting to use it, And so again, I finally found it, and I'm calling them, and it's AAA answers the phone, and what's your emergency? I said, well, I'm broke down here on the road here. And Regency told me the address and everything. They said, well, let me ask you a couple of questions, open-ended questions. I said, do you have gas? I got mad. I had pride. I said, you got to be kidding me. I mean, my gas thing says I got a quarter of a tank. I'm not out of gas. My truck's broke down. Okay, we're just supposed to ask. Okay. So they came and they towed me and took me to my truck to 1010 Auto, which is, I can walk home from there. So they took me to 1010 Auto. I'm sitting there thinking to myself, man, I wonder if I don't have any gas in that thing. Because it's an old truck and that gas needle has been, I don't know. So I said, before AAA or 1010 breaks that thing open and starts working on it, because it was on a Sunday or whatever, so Monday morning they were going to work on it, so I got there before they opened up, and I took some gas and I poured it in the tank. And I got in there and I hit that thing a few times, and it started up. I was out of gas. But I didn't dare tell anybody, that I was out of gas, but that humbled me. I mean, it hurt my feelings that they asked me, was I out of gas? I mean, come on. I've been driving this truck forever, but I was out of gas. So that humbled me. That's humbling. Now, that's not humility, but that's a humbling. Humility is a noun. I had to look this stuff up, right? But humble is an adjective that describes, an attitude. But that humbled me. Now, humility came later, because if you've been humbled a few times, you hope that eventually you learn from that and you have more humility and learn to not always take the higher road. And I was looking at, let's see, test you on your English just a little bit. And I know Jessie's here, so she's going to really jump on this. So, what is the word that means the opposite of? In English class, it's an antonyms, and words that sound alike are what? Not similar to, but words that sound alike are homonyms, right? Like you can say Mark and Mark. Mark the name and Mark the paper, okay? I had to think about it because I did the same thing, Joe. Synonyms are things that are similar to, okay? If the opposite of humility, here's some of the antonyms of the opposite. Now, when you hear these words, I want you to think about the spiritual warfare thing and think about who has these characteristics. Okay, the opposite of humility: arrogance, pride, haughtiness, egotism, boastfulness. All these terms convey a lack of humility, often reflect on the inflated sense of self-importance. Who in our Bible that we read about has all these traits? Satan. Satan has all these. So whenever we have these kind of traits, who are we more like? Are we more like Christ or more like Satan when we display these things? We're more like Satan. We're like the flesh. You go back to the Garden of Eden. It all started there. Satan used that deception and put in Eve's mind, and Adam, the thing about
he overpowers sickness.
They saw themselves and had pride and became like him, and we lost our place in the garden. So, with all that said, that's what we're going to be talking about today, is humility. So our passages are going to be in the book of Philippians. Okay, so if you have your Bible study book, and Jesse, did you get one? Okay, excellent. So it's in the book of Philippians, and Philippians should be familiar to you. The Apostle Paul wrote the book of Philippians. My Bible study tells me that it was probably while he was under house arrest in Rome. His house arrest was kind of it wasn't like shackled down 24 hours of solitary confinement kind of a thing, because Paul had built up a reputation with these Romans on that boat ride they'd gone on that that ended in a shipwreck. But they found out that this Paul was not really a slave to them or a prisoner. He was more of a prisoner to who? Jesus Christ. And he even mentions that over and over again. So the church at Philippi, if you remember, Paul had spent some time in a jail there too, right? Because there was a Philippian jailer who heard Paul and Silas singing through the night that got converted and became a Christian. Well, as a result, the church of Philippi, there were some other people there that Paul had witnessed to. So the Philippians, or the Philippian church, it had a special place in Paul's heart. And so while he was under house arrest, he wrote this letter to the church at Philippi. And they didn't really have the problems as we see in the church of Corinth and some other places in Ephesus. But he wanted to give them some preventive maintenance, some ways that they could avoid some of the things he was hearing about at the church, things that might fester up and become a problem. And that was the thing of pride and having more humility and being more Christ-like. So let's look at the verses. We'll go right into it. Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Jesse, I'm going to go ahead and pick on you since you're my visitor today. So go ahead and read those first two verses for us today. Philippians chapter 2, verses 1 and 2. Okay, thank you so much. So he's connecting with them first on a basis that we're as believers, and when he says if therefore, he's basically it's understood that they are believers, and he's just in agreement saying that as Christians we'll have that fellowship in the Spirit, any bowels of mercy or things that are inside that love for others. He says, fulfill my joy and be like-minded and have the same mind that Christ had. I want all of us to be thinking on the same wavelength as Christ would. And that'll help our unity if we're all thinking, as they used to say,
by their fruits.
Do
men gather grapes from thorns or figs of thistles?
Or the songbook. So he wanted us to be like-minded. Okay. Let's see. Greg, would you read Philippians 2, verses 3 and 4? Okay. So, you've heard the adage used before when somebody would be on a stage and they're trying to direct the actor for the next line, and the actor would shoot back, what's my motivation? What is my motivation? Well, what is our motivation here? What does the Bible say our motivation should be? Thinking of others and not putting ourselves at number one, but putting others. It would be something if a church would fight over who was the one serving, which I've seen that happen in this church before. People be grabbing people's plates at our functions that we have downstairs with fellowship, and somebody wants to start clearing the table, and then church members fighting over who was going to be the servant. So that's a good problem to have when people are fighting about who's going to serve. That usually doesn't happen that way. Most people want to be served. And I see a lot of that at the airport. I see all the human behavior at an airport, the good, the bad, and the ugly, And that's without Clint Eastwood and all the other Western bad guys, okay? I see all of that at the airport played out. And it starts when they're little. I mean, I watch them now that we have a grandchild in our house. The mind of a child is going to be thinking about who first, mostly. Me. My diaper's wet. My diaper's dirty. I need to have a change most of the time, all right? I see it in the airport. You get these kids, they're just learning how to walk, and you put them on that, they see this big expanse. I mean, it's like a big runway inside the building, and they got them in a stroller. And they don't want to be in the stroller. I want to get out of the stroller. And you see their bodies moving, even though they can't tell them physically, I mean, verbally what they want to do, their body is telling. You know, they'll go to put them in the stroller, and they'll pull their bodies away.